Okay, earlier we discussed what is Hibernate, tell me. Improve the performance. Basically, what is Hibernate? Yes, by using Hibernate, of course, we can improve the performance. Then, first of all, what is the basic use of Hibernate? To store? To map objects in Java application to rows in your. Okay, so let me just introduce you. Maybe on that day we started and we stopped. We just start again freshly with Hibernate. So as an object-oriented developer, we always want everything to be treated like an object. But when it comes to writing code for our DAOs, we have to write JDBC code, and in JDBC code we have to fire SQL queries. As a Java developer, if I have to think in terms of tables, again which are relational tables, it will be a bit difficult for me because I want everything as an object. So what I want is, I want a tool which can take my objects in my application and map it to a row inside my database table, right? If there is such a tool, what I can do is, whenever I want to say insert a row inside my table, I will use a tool and ask, and I will give my object to the tool and ask the tool to save. It will take care of firing the select query. I need not think about an SQL query, right? I can use the tool and pass my object to the tool. It will take care of saving. Suppose if I have a table called as employee emp underscore tab, and I have a class called as employee with some variables. We can have variables mapping to columns inside the table. And once I give the object of employee to the tool, what the tool will do is, it can persist it to the table. So we want a utility which can map objects to relational tables. So we call that such a tool as ORM. ORM tool, Object Relational Mapping Tool. There are lot of vendors who have created such ORM tools. Hibernate is one of the tools. Hibernate is one of such ORM tools given by from Red Hat. So what is Hibernate primarily? Hibernate is a ORM tool, Object Relational Mapping Tool. But if Hibernate's main aim is to map objects to tables, if that is the only functionality, Hibernate could not have been so successful. If just to map objects to tables, it could not have been so successful. It has a lot of inbuilt techniques which will help our program to be improved. The performance of the program can be improved a lot by using Hibernate. What type of performance? Hibernate internally uses two types of caching. First level cache, second level cache. So we can configure Hibernate to use two levels of caching. Using caching means improving the performance. We can reduce the number of queries on database. We can improve the performance, right? That is one advantage of Hibernate. And there are a lot of other advantages which I will be showing you practically, right? So just understand, Hibernate is a ORM tool which internally implements lot of strategies for improving the performance, right? With that, we will make a start. We will write one simple program on Hibernate, how to use Hibernate. Then you will be able to practically visualize everything what Hibernate is actually doing, right? So simple. Now my task first task which I'm going to give is I want a table called as employee in my database, which will have ID, name, salary, city, country, 5 fields. I want to create a class called as employee with similar variables. I want this class to be mapped to this table. I want to fire an insert query, select query, update query, delete query on the table by using Hibernate. Let's see how to do it. Once after doing all, I'll make you to understand other things. Okay. So now just create a Java project. Go to Java perspective. We'll just create a Java project first. New Java project. Just giving a name 01 Hibernate Basics. Okay, then finish. Then go to your shared folder. There I gave you Hibernate distribution, I guess. Did I give Hibernate jars to you? What all did I give to you? Extract this Hibernate distribution. Because to work with Hibernate, as I told, Hibernate is a ORM tool. It comes up with a lot of libraries. First thing we have to do is we have to include those libraries in our build path. Right? Just I am extracting this distribution folder and I'll tell you what all libraries to be included in the build path. For our first project, we will take some time to set up our project so that we can use the same setup later to create our next project. Okay, going inside this project, I'll explain you about these folders. Here you have the documentation folder, in which you have the Java documentation and manual also. See here under documentation we have Java docs. Under that index you can see the Java documentation for Hibernate. Java documentation for Hibernate API. There are a lot of packages, classes and interfaces we will be discussing. So just add a bookmark to it. Okay, just add a bookmark to it so that you can open it always. Then coming to this Hibernate final project, there is one jar called as Hibernate 3.jar. That's the main jar in Hibernate, which contains almost all the code. Right? Hibernate 3.jar is almost a 4 MB in size, a big jar. It's a main jar. Then Hibernate internally might be using some third-party jars, right? So if I am having this jar, inside that jar there are some classes which are using some third-party jars. So we need to keep those third-party jars also in the build part. So here is the lib directory. Going into lib directory, we have one folder called as required. These are all the required libraries, mandated libraries to be kept in the build part, right? So after that, you have a folder called as bytecode. Inside this there are two folders, cglib, Java assist. Okay, let me tell you about these jars, just for introduction. We'll be talking about these jars in detail later. In Hibernate will be creating a lot of proxies inbuilt. You know about proxies already, right? Hibernate will be creating proxies for some scenarios. To create proxies, there are third-party libraries called as cglib library and Java assist library. So Hibernate will be internally using these two libraries for creating proxies. So we need to keep these libraries also in the build path, java assist.jar and cglib.jar, right? Then next, optional. Internally, Hibernate will be using connection pooling. As you know about connection pooling, using connection pooling. There are a lot of connection pooling providers, lot of third-party vendors who are providing connection pooling code. These are all the vendors who are providing connection pooling. C3PO connection pooling is a default connection pooling used by Hibernate. So we need to keep this C3PO jar inside the build path, right? And also here you have other things with name cache. As I told, Hibernate will be using second level cache, 2 levels of cache, second level cache. To use second level cache, one of those caching providers can be used. I told Hibernate will be using third-party caching solutions. These are the third-party caching solutions which Hibernate offers. So suppose if I want to use JBoss caching provider, I can keep the jar present in this library. Or suppose if I want Proxol caching provider, I can keep OS cache. So these are the all optional libraries which we may keep or we may not keep. These are optional because that's the reason they are in. And JPA stands for Java Persistence API. Hibernate is implementing this specification given by J2E. JPA is a specification in J2E specification, JE specification, right? Hibernate is implementing JPA specification. If you want to use JPA, then you have to keep this jar, right? I'll summarize. So what we discussed, so what I'm doing is in my sys folder, I'm creating a new folder called as Hibernate libs. We will be using the libs which we are creating now for all projects. So I'm just creating a separate folder. Then go to Hibernate distribution folder, final folder, and copy this Hibernate 3.jar and paste it inside Hibernate libs. First step, go to distribution lib directory, go to required folder and copy all these jars because these are all the required folders, required jars. Copy all of them into this separate folder. Go inside cglib and copy this cglib jar. Right? And just observe that Java assist.jar, which is present in Java assist folder, there is already present here in the required ones. So we need to copy it again. Then coming back, go to this JPA folder and copy this because I'll be giving introduction to JPA also here. This is a one-time task. We are copying all the libraries, required libraries. So again go to lib, go to optional C3PO, copy this C3PO jar. That's all. These are the minimal jars with which we can proceed. Later, when talking about second level cache, I'll introduce the libraries required. Add this, you know how to add them, right click, build path, libraries, add external jars, add all these jars, finish. That's all we have. Add all the Hibernate jars to our build path, required jars. new Java class, package com.mysys, class name I'll give as employee, create variables private int employee ID, private string name, private string city, private string country. That's all. Okay, let it be. Generate getters and setters. To Hibernate, I need to tell this class has to be mapped to a table called as emp underscore tab, some table. To write the mappings, we use an XML file called as hbm.xml file. The extension of the file is .hbm.xml. HBM stands for Hibernate mapping. So what we need to do is we need to write a file called as employee.hbm.xml to map it. So let me write it. Now right click on this class employee.java, new other, go to Hibernate. Here there is one option called as Hibernate XML mapping file, hbm.xml. Are you able to see it? Select it, next. Here you have a class called as employee, which is already shown, right? Just take it, next, next, finish. See here, we have already used Hibernate plugins, right? Those plugins are already generating the mapping code, right? But I don't want you to use this, just delete it, because I want you to do it manually so that you will remember. After you understand the concepts, you can use a tool for automatically generating it, right? So just remove it. So this XML is following a DTD, Hibernate-mapping-d3.0.dtd. So it tells about what tags can be used inside this XML. Now, if you press Ctrl space, it's writing a class. By using a class tag, what we can do is we can map a class to a table. How? See here. Class. For class, we have an attribute called as name. I'll give as employee. And there is an attribute called as table as emp underscore tab. So here you can clearly understand that class employee, the corresponding table is emp, right? So I have mapped class to table, right? Tell me, in employee, what will be acting like a primary key? What can be as a primary key? Employee ID. This variable employee ID can be a primary key, right? So tell me now, with your database knowledge, a table should always have a primary key, true or false? No need, right? But in Hibernate suggests that every table should have a primary. What is advantage? I don't want uniqueness, then why should I give primary key? In database, suppose if employee table is having 1 lakh rows, if I fire a query, the database, will the query be taking some time? 1 lakh rows, right? The query will take some time. To improve the query performance, what we can do?
Particular column.
Index, yes, correct. We can tell particular column is the index. So what the database will do, it will use that column and index it, right? So we need a unique column for indexing, right? So if we can use a primary key for Suppose if your table is having primary key, it can index. We can index, right? So Hibernate says every table should have a primary key, right? Now coming to primary key, sometimes we don't find a table to have a primary key. All tables may not have a column which is unique, right? Suppose if I have a table called as address, which will have a street name, city name, country name, etc. Will there be any column to uniquely identify a row? What column it has? House number, street name, area number, area name, city name, country name. Can you identify a row uniquely? What? House number? No. In one house, it might be some 3-storied or 4-storied building that will be having only one house number. You cannot identify, right? So what I mean to say is sometimes we don't have any column to be identified as a primary. So at least in that case, what we can do is we have to create one dummy column saying it as address ID, and this will act like a primary key. Such keys which don't have any business significance are called as surrogate keys. A key which has a business meaning is called as a business key, right? Suppose in my employee class I have employee ID. I can say employee ID can act like a primary key. Tell me, is this employee ID having some business meaning? Some meaning inside your business logic? Yes. By using employee ID, you might be having some logics, right? So this is a business key. It has some meaning in your business context. It's a business key. But sometimes you may have to create a dummy key which does not have any business significance. Address ID. Address ID does it have any business significance? So such keys are called as surrogate keys, right? So can I configure my database so that these surrogate keys can be automatically generated? Yes, we will be able to generate surrogate keys automatically. If you are using Oracle database, there is something called a sequence. If you have worked there in Oracle database, there is something called a sequence, by using which we can generate primary keys automatically. We need not give a value for address ID when inserting. Oracle will be generating this address ID automatically, right? In Oracle we have sequence, but in MySQL database we don't have sequence. MySQL uses another strategy called as increment. It will automatically increment, auto increment, right? So by using that auto increment, primary key can be automatically generated. So surrogate keys can be automatically generated, right? Now coming to here, the mapping, I need to tell what is ID field for employee. To map ID field, what we use is we use the tag called as ID. ID tag is used to tell about the primary key. ID, what is the name of the ID? Name. See here, remember, whenever I am giving name, name always maps to instance variable of your employee. Here I will be using lot of tags. Name always maps to instance variable of your class. Name, control space. Okay, employee ID. Use always control space, don't type on your own. Column, I'll give EMP underscore ID. So now you might have understood that EMP ID of class employee is mapped to EMP underscore ID. Right? Now I want this employee ID to be automatically generated. Is this a surrogate key? Surrogate keys generally be automatically generated, but employee ID I want to give, right? Let's assume for some time I want to generate employee ID automatically. How to configure Hibernate? You have to use a generator tag inside ID. Generator can say class is equals to control space. In Hibernate, we have a lot of predefined automatic generators. In Hibernate, uses a lot of algorithms for generating automatically these primary keys, right? So we can select sequence if you are using Oracle database, then you can use class is equals to sequence because Oracle supports sequence, right? But if I am connecting to MySQL database, does it support sequences? No. So if I configure sequence here, I will get an exception, right? MySQL uses control space and using again what? Increment. MySQL uses increment strategy. The database itself, right? It is using increment strategy. So tell me whenever I am using MySQL, I need to give this generator, right? If I give sequence and connecting to MySQL, it will give an exception. But do I need to worry about what database to which I am connecting? No. So whatever database I am connecting to, my code should look like my configuration should be same, right? I need not worry about to which database I am connecting. So what I will do is I will say class is equals to native. Native means Hibernate will decide based on the database to which it is connecting. Suppose if it is connecting to Oracle, it will use Oracle's native strategy. What is that? Sequence. Suppose if it is connecting to MySQL, Hibernate will decide which strategy to use. To MySQL is increment strategy. So we always use, most of the time we use native strategy whenever we want primary keys to be automatically generated, right? Native means based on the database to which it is connecting, Hibernate will decide, right? So we mapped employee ID as primary key. Then we have property tag. Property tag name is equals to name, column is equals to emp underscore name. Property name is equals city, property name is equals to so I mapped all the variables of my employee to columns. Do you agree? For city I didn't give column attribute, right? If I don't give column attributes, by default variable name is assumed to be the column name. In database also variable name will be assumed to be the column name if I don't give column attribute. So column attribute is not mandatory. If you don't give column attribute, name of the variable will be treated to be same as the column name in the database, right? That's it. I have done mapping my employee class to a table. A simple configuration till now. Did it tell to Hibernate to which database to connect? MySQL or Oracle? Where is the URL, password, URL? Nothing, right? So I need to tell to Hibernate to which database to connect. I want to connect to MySQL database right now, right? So MySQL driver should be in the build path. Did we keep? No. So one more thing which I forgot is to keep the driver jar inside the build path. So copy the driver jar, go to MySQL driver jar wherever you have it, copy it. This is the MySQL connector jar and paste it to Hibernate libs and add again this to build path. I forgot to add that. Again I am adding add external jars and I am selecting MySQL. So I add it. Okay. So now I want to tell to Hibernate to which database to connect, what is the URL, what is the password. So such configuration is written in another file with extension .cfg .xml. CFG stands for configuration. So Hibernate configuration is written in hibernate.cfg. So I am writing a new file. Remember, here employee.hbm.xml is in the same package, right? Now the CFG file should be in source, in the build path, the class path. So go to other, new other. See here under Hibernate folder you have Hibernate configuration file cfg.xml, right? Just take that next. Okay. Right click on source, new, other, and go to Hibernate, expand it. You have Hibernate configuration file. Select this, next. The name is coming default hibernate.cfg.xml. Let it be. Take next. It's asking session factory name. What is a session factory? I talk about session factory while just coding ahead. Right now, leave it blank. Okay. Now come to database dialect. Select MySQL from here. What is a dialect? Tell me English meaning of a dialect. In Karnataka, how many dialects do you have? Dialect means local language. Karnataka, everybody speaks Kannada. But again, depending upon the area, is there a local slang? Is it? Right? English also is there. But in India, we speak a different English. US, they speak differently. UK, they speak different English. Slang is there, right? So, dialect is refers to slang. Again, coming to databases, all databases will use SQL true or false. All databases will use SQL for queries, true or false. True. So if I write an SQL for Oracle database, will it exactly work on MySQL? Always? No, right? Because why? Why? What is the reason? The query for Oracle will not run exactly, may not run on MySQL. Why? No. Syntaxes are same. But see, for writing SQL queries, there is a standard called as SQL 96 standard. If you write your queries following that standard, the queries will be portable. The query you write for Oracle will work on MySQL or SQL Server or anything. But these database vendors try to be smart. Oracle will try to provide more functionality than other database vendors. So in queries they give some extra functionality, right? So if you are using those extra functionalities given by Oracle, the queries will not work on, right? But if you are following standard, then it will work, right? So what I mean to say is, for Oracle the queries might be different, might be. For MySQL the queries might be different, right? In Hibernate we will not be writing any SQLs. We will be writing queries using HQL. Guess what is this HQL for? Hibernate query language. We will be using HQL. It is an object-oriented query language, right? We will not write a query using columns or tables. We will write query using objects. So HQL is an object-oriented query language. For an object-oriented developer, it is very easy for us to write an object-oriented query rather than writing an SQL, right? So in Hibernate, we will be writing HQLs, but will the database understand HQL? No. So Hibernate has to convert HQL to SQL and then fire the query, right? So in Hibernate, dialect is responsible for converting Hibernate queries to the native SQL queries, right? So here I want to use MySQL. I need to select the Hibernate MySQL dialect. MySQL dialect will convert HQL queries to MySQL specific queries. Hibernate comes up with a dialect for each and every database. For Oracle, you have Oracle specific dialects, right? For MySQL, you have MySQL specific. So you have to select it. Once I have selected, here I am selecting driver class. Do I have MySQL jar here? Yes. Okay, again I'm creating new other CFG file. I'll select MySQL. Okay, select MySQL InnoDB. MySQL 5 InnoDB. There are different versions of MySQL. For the current version which we are using, MySQL 5 InnoDB, and here it is giving you the driver automatically. r.dget.mm.mysql.driver. This is the one for. And the URL. You know about URL. JDBC called MySQL / localhost / the database to which you are connecting. I'll give a different database, Hibernate DB. Let's use a new database. Okay, it's not there in our MySQL. We'll create it. And username and password. You can leave the default schema and default catalog for now. My username is root. Password also is root. You can give your usernames and passwords. Finish. So it has created a CFG file with whatever we have written. The next thing which I want to configure manually here is I want Hibernate to create tables automatically by reading the HBM file. Tell me, by seeing this HBM file, can you tell me what is the table name? EMP_tab. What is the primary key? Employee ID. What is its type? In Java, int. So Hibernate knows for int in Java what is the corresponding type in MySQL. Right? So we have every information about how to create a table, is it? So what we can do is we can use Hibernate and set Hibernate to create a table automatically by reading this configuration. How? Go to cfg.xml and write one more property and write HBM to ddl.auto. You just write it as create. HBM to DDL. By reading HBM, write a DDL. DDL stands for data definition language. Create the DDL queries. HBM to DDL.auto. You say create. That means create the DDLs automatically and fire. So if you just write this option, Hibernate will create the DDLs automatically. Generally, while developing, what we will be doing is we will be writing HQLs. But to make sure that what are HQLs we wrote are correct or not, we may want to see the queries on console in development mode. But in production, when you move on to server, you want to disable the queries to be printed, right? So if you want to see the generated SQL files, what you can do is you can write a property name is equals to show SQL and say true. You will be shown the generated SQLs. This is one of the property which we use generally. If you use this option show underscore SQL to true, it will print you the SQL queries on the console, but they will not be in readable format. It will be complex queries. You want the queries to be in readable format. You want the queries to be formatted. So what you can do is you can just write one more property format SQL to true. Just if I write show SQL to true, the whole query will be in a single line whenever it prints. But if it's a big query, you cannot go through a single line and understand it, right? If you write format SQL to true, it will break it into lines. So you can see a single query in multiple lines. It will be easy for you to debug if you are debugging. So format SQL to true. Right? So these are the configurations. Now let us write the code for saving an employee object to database. Now write a new class. Insert demo. I'll show you how to insert. Take main. Now there are some steps. First listen carefully. I'll give you time to do it, okay? Just don't do it parallelly because you'll not be able to concentrate. The first step is to load the configuration file. Hibernate has to load the configuration file. Which is the main configuration file? efg.xml. Hibernate.cfg.xml is the one main configuration file, right? The first step in Hibernate is to load the configuration file. To load the configuration file, you can say new configuration. Always import the one from org.cfg.hibernate. Right. Don't write it, just see here for some time. Once there is a new configuration, what is happening you need to understand clearly. The constructor of this configuration will look for a file called as hibernate.properties in the build file. Right? Hibernate.properties in the build file. Did we write it? No, we didn't write it, right? But it is present in one of the jars. Hibernate3.jar will be having it, the main jar. Hibernate.properties. What is dot properties? What it will contain? Key value pairs, right? In XML, in cfg.xml, am I not configuring key value pairs? Is it a key? Key value, right? So in Hibernate.properties also, there will be a lot of key value pairs with default values. Right? Let me show you that Hibernate.properties. So in the distribution, final, right? You have project folder. Inside project folder, you have etc folder. Here you have Hibernate.properties. Inside project, etc, you have Hibernate.properties file. I'll just open it here itself. See here, there are a lot of key value pairs, but key value pairs are separated by space. Here you are seeing Hibernate.dialect. What is its value? Something ending with HSQL dialect. But did I give the same key here? Hibernate.dialect. But what is the value? MySQL 5 InnoDB dialect. In Hibernate.properties also, same key is having a different value, right? Let me tell you at this point, Hibernate will come up with a default database called as Hypersonic SQL database. Inside Hibernate distribution, whatever I gave you, there is a database called as Hypersonic SQL database. It's a very lightweight database written in Java. Right? Lightweight. Just for development and for testing, we can use the Hypersonic SQL database. But we are not using Hypersonic SQL database. We are using MySQL database. So inside Hibernate.properties, it is already configured to what? HSQL database, because it's a default database. Already direct is pointing to HSQL DB, and it's the driver class, username, password, nothing. this is the URL for HSQLDB, the default database, right? So here in Hibernate.properties, there are some default key value pairs. Default dialect, default driver, default URL, username, password, everything, right? We can override this configuration in what? CFG dot, right? So again, once you understand this, first thing is whenever I say new configuration file, the constructor of configuration will load Hibernate.properties file. Right? In that there are some default key value pairs configured. All the key value pairs will be loaded here at this time, right? Then the next step is I'll say CFG dot configure. This will return an object of configuration. I'll take it in CFG. So what this configure method will do is it will look for hibernate.cfg.xml in the build file. Now in this line hibernate.cfg.xml, in that again I configured key value pairs. If there is a key with same value, with same name, what will happen? Overridden, right? So dialect is that we give a different value. This will be overriding the default value, right? So in hibernate.cfg.xml we can override the default values from hibernate. So in Hibernate, what is the primary configuration file? Dot properties. Hibernate dot properties is the first file which is loaded. Then the primary configuration file is the secondary configuration file, right? So by these two steps, what we have done is we have loaded the configurations, right? Next, coming to cfg.xml. So what I want to do, I want to fire an insert query using Hibernate, is it? So to database, first of all I have to make a connection and open a session to it. I have to make a connection and open a session to Hibernate, the session to database from Hibernate, right? So I need to open a session first. That's the first step. But how to open a session? I don't know. So what do we have? If I don't know how to create an object, we have factories. We already discussed about factory design patterns, right? So Hibernate is having a factory called a session factory, which can create. But how to get that factory? See here in hibernate.cfg.xml, what is the root tag? Session factory. By reading all this configuration present in session factory tag, we can create a session factory is inside configuration, right? So now what we can do is we can just say cfg dot build session factory. It will give me an object of session factory. Right? Then from session factory dot open session. It will open a session. I'll get session object. Right? Then what I want to do, actually I want to save an employee in the session, is it? So first I'll create an employee object. Employee is equals to new employee. Tell me some name. E dot set name. Tell me one of your names. Okay, I'll write my name. Shiva. E dot set city Bengaluru. E dot set country India only. So now I have created an employee object. I want to save it in session. So simple session dot save. That's all. I need not do anything. Just session dot save, and then session dot close. Or if I just run this, I should see that the employee table is automatically created because I gave which option? for creating tables automatically. HBM to DDL.auto as create. So table will be automatically created and a row for this employee should be inserted, right? But before going ahead, see in cfg.xml, what is my database name? Hibernate DB. If we don't have the DB, just create the DB. Database has to be created by us. So open your SQL log which I gave to you. Create a new DB, Hibernate DB. Okay, that's fine. You created it. And before we run, one more thing. See in this code, this will load hibernate.properties. This will load cfg.xml, right? But where is employee.hbm.xml, right? Nowhere. So what we need to do is we need to write in configuration file mapping tag. Mapping resource is equals to com slash not dot mysys slash employee.hbm.xml. So actually my hbm.xml is present in com folder and inside that mysys folder. So I'm just giving the path of that hbm.xml, right? So here I'm telling what is the location of employee.hbm.xml, right? Now run your insert. I'll just run my insert demo. Let me check. I'll give you time to do it. Okay. Yep, see, I'm able to see one insert query on my console. Let me check my database. Is there any table? I'll just refresh it. Yep, there's a table called as employee tab created, but no data. What I'll do is here say I saved it, but still I am not seeing anything. Insert query is also fired. What do you think? So insert query is fired, but data is not inserted. Why so? Insertion also succeeded. Yes, exactly. Commit. So by default in JDBC, is auto commit true or false? In JDBC, auto commit is true. Once you say statement dot execute update, automatically query is fired and committed in JDBC. But in Hibernate, by default, yes, false. The queries are fired or not committed immediately. You have to start a transaction and commit it. Right? Did we start a transaction? No. So before saving, what we need to do is we need to start a transaction. Session dot begin transaction. This will begin a transaction. arg.hibernate.transaction. And after saving, I'll say tx.commit. Now I'll run it. Let's see. Yeah, I saw same insert query. Now in database, yep, see, I have seen the data, right? So this is simple code for inserting. Just analyze it and now here I am saying open session. Do you think connection to database is open here? Does it seem that connection to database is open here? Without opening a connection, can a session be established? Got my point? So here we always feel that session to the database is open. If session to database has to be opened, connection should have been created, right? But the answer is no. The connection is not created here. Session also is not open to database. What is actually happening? Let's try to understand here. I just explain it here. So what I created, session factory dot open session. An object called session is created. This is session object. But session, is it a class? If I keep my cursor here, it's the interface I. So session is the interface in Hibernate. Whenever you say factory dot open session, an object of session is created. What do I mean? Object of interface is not created. There will be some implementation. That object is created, right? You can treat this session like a collection. Not this session is an object and it's having a variable called as persistence context. Persistence context. Session is having a variable called as persistence context, and this variable is pointing to an object of persistence context type, which is persistence context object. You can treat this persistence context as a collection. What is collection? Collection is an object which can store references of some other objects like array list, linked list, all their collections, right? It can store reference of other objects, right? Similarly, here persistence context object can be treated like a collection. You can keep reference of any objects inside. So when I said session factory dot open session, just an object like this is created in the memory. Database connection is not opened, right? Now, going to the code, I said begin transaction here, right? At this line, it has to begin a transaction with the database. So at this line, whenever it's a begin transaction, connection is opened. And on that connection dot set auto commit false will start a transaction. So whenever I am beginning a transaction, at this point a connection is opened, and on that connection a transaction is started. Then here I am calling session dot save. Do you think insert query is fired here? No. Session dot save, if you call insert query, is not fired. What it will do is, here is an employee object. This is employee object already on the heap. Whenever you call session dot save, the reference of employee object will be kept inside the persistence context. As I said, persistence context can be treated like a collection. It can hold references of other objects. Whenever I say session dot save, insert query is not fired. The reference of employee object is kept inside the persistence, right? Whenever you say commit, here you have said commit. If you say commit, what will happen is session will be flushed. Whatever is there in the session will be flushed. Flushing, what it will do is, it will result in an insert query. Whenever you flush session, insert session object, what are there? Employee object is there in the persistence context. This will result in an insert query, right? Whenever you commit, flush will happen. If you want to explicitly flush without commit, what you can do is you can say session dot. This you can do explicitly. Whenever you say session dot flush, queries are fired on the database. Whenever you say session dot save, the reference of your object is kept inside the persistence context, and internally Hibernate will be maintaining a queue. Your query will be kept in a queue. The insert query will be just kept in a queue. Query will not be fired, right? And whenever you see session dot flush, query is fired. But if you don't say commit, query is fired on database but not committed. Will it be really inserted inside the database? Session dot flush, what it will do is, whatever queries are there in the queue, they will be fired to database but not committed. right? But if you say commit, you need not say flush, because before committing automatically session will be flushed and then commit is issued, right? This is what is happening internally. So till now what we understood is we just fire select insert query, right? Before we go ahead with some more discussion, I want to show you how to fire a select query based on ID, based on primary key. I want to get an employee whose ID is 1, right? So let's see. I'll write a new class for select demo. I'll write a new class select demo. Take main. I will copy paste everything from here, from configuration, because it's a common step. To me, to fire a select query, is a transaction required? No. Is it? To fire a select query, transaction is it not required, right? So see here, I am saying session dot. There is a method called as get. Get an object of which class? Employee class. So employee dot class. And what is ID? 1. So session.get can be used to get any object by primary key. So now this will return me an object of employee. I'll typecast it employee is equals to, and I'll typecast it. So session.get will fire a select query based on ID, right? Now I got an employee ID. I'll just print its name. Let's see whether it will print or not. Session.get, sorry, e dot, I got an employee object, e dot system.out.println name, and I will just print plus e dot get name. That's all. Let me check whether it will fire a query or not. Oh, it printed the select query, but why I got a null pointer exception? See, at where did I get null pointer exception? At this line. That means E is null. Why? Let's see the database. Is there an employee with ID 1? Refresh. Oh, wait. What happened? The data was lost. Huh? You are also, for you also the row is deleted? Yeah, the data is lost. So what happened is actually in cfg.xml, here I wrote hbm to ddl.auto is create, right? That means what the Hibernate will do, whenever session factory is being built, it will create it. It will, if the table is already existing, it will drop the table and create it again. Drop the table and create it again. If you give the value as create, the existing table, if there is any, it will be dropped and then recreate it, right? But I don't want like that. If table is already existing, I don't want to do anything. So the option here which you have to use is update. hbm to ddl.auto, I am saying here as update. What is the meaning of update? Let me tell you, there are 3 scenarios. Whenever you give hbm to ddl.auto as update, 3 scenarios. If table is not existing, it will create it, first scenario. If table is existing, and let's take a scenario, in the table already there are 4 fields, okay, but in your HBM there are 5 fields. You might have changed your HBM file, right? 5 fields. What will happen? Already table is existing with 4 fields, but in your HBM you have specified 5 fields. In that case, what it will do, it will alter the table and update the table and add the new column. So if table is already existing, one more scenario, if the number of columns is not same in the table, then table is altered. If columns are same in table and in HBM also same, this will not do anything. table will not be done anything. Right? Three scenarios. I'll repeat it again. Whenever you say HBM to DDL.auto is update, if table is not existing, table is created. If table is existing, but the number of columns are not same as in HBM, table will be altered. If all are same, everything is same in HBM and table, then nothing will be done, right? So we always use update. Hibernate will decide whether to create or not. So again my table is empty, so I'll just run the insert demo again, so that one row will come. Okay, now at least there is one row with ID 1, right? Now I will fire the select demo. I'll run the select demo. Now it should fire the select query and printed the name as, right? See the select query? Select query is having a where condition. It's comparing based on primary key. So session.get will fire a select query based on primary key. So you have done this, right? Now I have one more question. Here I will say session.get e1 and I will print e1.getName. How many queries will be fired right now? 1 or 2 or 0? 2? Sure? Okay, let's see. Remember the ID is same. Only one query is fired, but 2 times name is Shiva. So what is happening? Let's try to understand. Okay, whenever I say session.get, this will result in a select query, right? See, I told you earlier, when I open session, connection is not open, right? When I say open session, connection is not open. Session object is created like that, right? But transaction didn't start because for firing a select query, transaction is not required. When I say session.get, how is it firing select query without opening connection? That means get method will check if there is already a connection open, use that connection, otherwise open a new connection. But remember, open session will never create a. Here in this case, connection is created, connection is open, and select query is fired, and it got employee object, right? Employee object, whatever object is created by Hibernate is kept in the persistence context, right? Persistence context is considered to be first level cache in Hibernate. There are 2 levels of cache in Hibernate, as I said. Persistence context is said to be the first level cache. Cache means what? A temporary location where the data is stored, right? So here employee object is stored. Whatever the query is fired, the result of all the queries fired by Hibernate are stored in persistence. It is acting like a cache, right? Okay. Employee with ID 1 is there in the cache after the sign. Now again I am saying session.get. Whenever it is session.get, what it will do is it will first check, is there an employee object already in the cache? If yes, query will not be fired. If no, then only the query will go to the database, right? So here performance, is it increased or not? So because of first level cache, performance is increased, right? So remember, whenever you fire any query, the result of the query will be stored in the persistence context. Persistence context is considered to be first level cache. Whenever it is firing a query, it will first check is the data present in the first level cache. If it is already present, query will be avoided. Right? That is the importance of session.get. Any other doubts? Now I'll just remove this line. I will say session dot, sorry, okay, not session dot, employee dot set name. I'll change the name of employee. Tell me another name. Vaibhav. Oh, he's not there. Huh? Tell me the famous person in your batch. Lokesh, huh? Why so? Comedian. I didn't see any comedy from him till now. Okay, let's see. Okay, fine. I am just changing a name. Do you think that it will result in an update query? I just change the name. What will happen? Let's see. I am running it. Okay, here see. Select query is failed, but not an update query, is it? Okay, I'll say session.flush. Now let us see. See here, automatically update query is fired. Let's try to understand the concept behind it. Whenever you say session.get, employee object is kept inside the persistence context, right? We have handled our employee object to Hibernate. Hibernate will manage all the objects present in session. Okay. If any object in session is changed, Hibernate will consider that object as dirty. Any object in persistence context is changed, Hibernate will consider that object as dirty. Right? And whenever a session is flushed, whenever we try to flush the session, it will check, is there any dirty object in the session? If any dirty object, then Hibernate will result in an update query automatically. Right? This feature provided by Hibernate is called as automatic dirty checking. Right? Let me just repeat it. What is automatic dirty checking? Whenever an object is associated with a session, Hibernate will manage that objects. It is the responsibility of the Hibernate to make sure that the state of the object in memory is same as that of the database. Right? So whenever an object is in session, Hibernate will manage it. If you change an object which is present in session, Hibernate will consider that object as dirty. It will mark it as a dirty object. And whenever you try to flush the session, it will check, is there any dirty object in session? If there is any dirty object in session, the state of that object is propagated to database. State of the object means what? The values inside the instance variable are propagated to database. In this case, I change the name, it will result in an update query to be fired. This feature provided by Hibernate is called as automatic dirty checking. Just check. I will refresh it. Why is it Shiva? Yes. I flushed it. Query is fired but not committed. So if I had committed, it could have been updated. So always the best practice is to begin the transaction. Session dot begin transaction. Transaction tx is equals to, and whenever you are committing transaction, you need not flush tx dot commit. Now if I run, the name should be location. Yes, changing it. Now, how to remove an object from session? I will say session dot evict. There is a method called as session dot evict. So what this will do is it will evict employee object from session. It will remove it from the persistence context. Right? So once an object is out of session, will it be managed by Hibernate? No. So once an object is out of session, it will not be managed. So after evicting, if I change the name, suppose if I say e dot set name xyz, do you see an update query now? Once I say evict, object is removed from the session. if an object is not associated with session, it is no more managed by Hibernate. So this will not result in an update query, right? Let me run it. Let's check. Will I see an update query or not? No, I'm not seeing an update query, right? So understood? If an object is associated with session, then only it is managed by Hibernate. If it is evicted, it is not managed by, right? So how to evict? How to remove an object from persistence context? Session dot evict. Or tell me now, if I don't evict, now tell me, will it result in an update query? No, because session is closed here. After I close session, or session itself is destroyed, if I change the name here, that will not result in an update query, right? But see here, after I close the session, can I open the session again? Yes, so like this. Yep, see here. So after I closed the session, I updated the name of employee, opened a new session again, begin a new transaction again, right? Now what I want is, I want to make the employee object, I want to again attach my employee object with session, right? That's what I want to do. Let me tell you before I go ahead, if an object is associated with session, we say that the object is in persistent state. If an object is associated with the session, then we say that it is in persistent state. If an object is not associated with session, but there is a row in database, then we call it as detached state. It is in detached state. Right? When is it in detached state? If there is a corresponding row in database, for employee ID 1, there is a row in database, but it is not associated with session, then we say it is in detached state. Now tell me, after I close the session, the employee object is still there. Is this employee object associated with any session now? But is there a row for that employee object in database? So it is in detached state, right? Now tell me, before closing the session itself, I'll say session dot evict. After evicting, what is the state of employee? After evicting, what is the state of employee? Detached only, right? Before evicting, the employee is associated with session. After evicted, it was removed from session. It is detached from the session, right? So if I say session dot evict, it is detached. Or if you close the whole session, it is detached, right? Okay. So let's take this scenario. Here in this case, the employee object is detached from the first session. From here, the employee object is detached state, and I want to make it again to be attached to this new session, right? How to do it? So what you can do is, you can just say session dot update e. Session dot update. What this will do is, it will make the detached object as, it will make detached object as persistent, okay, and then this will result in an immediate update query also. Immediate update query will be fired. Here I have changed name to ABC, so it will result in the change of name. right? Session.update, what it will do? It will make a detached object as persistent and will result in an immediate update query. Any notes?
The same session will be created.
A new session. Old session was closed. Another session object is created because you said session factor dot open session. Another session object will be created. New session, fresh session. And in that session you are making the employee object as persistence again. Right? Just think of it. Let me introduce you one more state. Here in insert demo, after I say session.save, what is the state of employee? After I said session.save, what is the state of employee? Persistent. It will become persistent because employee object will be kept in session, right? But before calling session.save, what is its state? Detached? No. I just created a new employee. There is no corresponding row in the database, so it is not detached. It is a new object, right? So we say that it is in transient state. Transient, you know, in Java also. What is transient? Yes. The if you make a variable as transient in an object, it cannot be serialized, right? So here also, transient means something which does not have a state in permanent state is called as transient. Right? So if an object is not associated with a session, and if that does not have a corresponding row in the database, then we say it is in transient state. So 3 states in Hibernate. Transient state. An object can be in any one of these states. Yeah. So let me ask you. Okay, you understood how to fire a select query, how to fire an update query, how to fire an update query. Session.update, what it will do, it will make a transient object, sorry, detached object as persistent and it will fire an update query. But if already an object is in persistent state, then do you need to do anything to fire an update query? An object is already in persistent state. What you have to do to make an update query to be fired? Just change the object. If you change that object, Hibernate will treat it as dirty, it will fire the query automatically, right? Okay, right. Now, I want to delete an object from database, right? So here I'll just comment this for now. I have session.get means it will get an object from database, employee object. Then I'll say session.delete and pass empty. Right? Session.delete. I'll run it. See, our delete query is fired based on primary query, primary ID. If I refresh, no, data is deleted. So session.delete is for deleting an object from removed state. What is removed state? After deleting, after calling session.delete, the object is scheduled for deletion, but not yet deleted until you commit, right? From the point you say delete until commit, we say that the object is in removed state. It is not persistent. It is in removed state from here to here.
So this object cannot be used in between two.
If you use also, is there any use? Anyway, it is going to get deleted. You can use it, but why? Is of no use. Anyway, it's going to get deleted. It's scheduled for deletion, right? So it is suggested that don't use it after deleting. What is the state of an object after you call session.delete? After committing? After committing, will it be deleted? Yes. So is it associated with session? No. After deleting. Then what is the step? Not associated with any session. Deleted from database also. Transient, right? So I'll just draw a diagram. Tell me what all methods are used for transitioning from one state to other. So I'll just draw. This is transient. This is persistent state. This is detached. Tell me, to go from transient to persistent, what method you call on session? Save. Session.save. Open session will open a session. An object, I'm talking about objects. Session.save means it will find an insert query. Row is inserted. Right? Transient to persistent means saved, it's not saved. Then persistent to detached. Session dot. If we call any other method. Delete will make it to remote state. Right? Okay, session dot close. Right? From detached to transient. Delete and after committing. Delete and after committing, right? From persistent to transient, no, from detached to persistent, if you want to move again, session dot update. From detached to transient, or from persistent to transient also. Delete. From transient anyway you cannot come to detached directly. From transient it has to come to persistent state. So these are the methods which you not till now, right? Now I have some few basic questions. Just don't write it, just see it here. If I say session dot what will happen? Will I get any exception? Okay, first let me run an insert demo. In my database right now there is no employee ID with 1. I will run the insert demo so that one row will be inserted with ID 1. Okay, now there is one row with ID. Okay, 2. Okay, let it be 2. Now coming back here, what I will do is the session dot get 2. I am changing the name to explicit and then committing, then closing. Then afterwards I am changing the name. Okay. Then okay, just then calling session dot save. What will happen? Will it result in an update query or what will happen? Session dot save will always result in an update insert query. Let us see. It has fired an update query and changed the name, then fired an insert query and inserted one more row actually. Why? Because I said primary keys should be automatically generated. I am not generating the primary keys, right? So it thought whenever I said save, it thought okay, I'm creating a new object and saving. It inserted, right? So I don't want insert query to be done. What I will do is I'll say session. One thing is, if I don't want the primary keys to be automatically generated, I should not say native. I should say assigned. Assigned means I am giving the primary key. Native means database will be generating the primary key automatically by using its native strategy. Assigned means I am giving the primary key, don't generate it automatically. Now let's see the scenario when it is assigned. First I will drop the table, dropped. Now I will try to insert. Do I need to give ID right now? Yes, e dot set employee ID 1 2 3, any ID I can give. Now I will run it. Let us see. Yes, ID is 1 2 3. It was not automatically generated because I said generator assigned, right? Then I'll select the ID is 1 2 3. Now what do you think will happen if I say session.save? Update. It tried to insert, but I got constraint violation, duplicate entry 1 2 3 4. Whenever I say session.save, it will try to blindly insert. If already there is an object with primary key, I try to find insert query blindly. Session.save will always blindly fire a insert query. But if your generation strategy is native, what you will do? It will bring that it has to save another employee object and you insert again, a new row will be inserted. But if you say assigned, that means that you are assigning the primary key, right? Already this employee ID is having a primary key called as 1 2 3. It is trying to insert an employee object, same primary key, you get constraint violation, right? Now what you want is you want Hibernate to decide whether to fire its insert query or update query, right? If an employee object with 1 2 3 exists, then you want update query to be fired. If there is no employee row with ID 1 2 3, then you want insert query. So what you can do is you can say session.save or update. Session.save or, so Hibernate will decide whether to fire an update query or insert query. If employee with primary key 1 2 3 is not there, insert. Already there, update. So let's see now whether it will fire an update query or not. It didn't fire insert query, it fired update query, right? Here session.save or update. Wherever save is there, you can use save or update. Any doubts still now? So last scenario which I want to talk about right now. I want to make it very simple. Okay, see, just analyze this scenario first, all of you. What am I trying to do? I opened a session, open transaction, then got an employee with ID 1 2 3, open rejection, close the session. What is the state of B now? Detailed. I changed the details of that, right? And again I open a new session. In this session I got an object with ID, same ID 1 2 3. So now in this new session, employee object ID 1 2 3 is already there. Then I am trying to say session dot save or update E. This is E1. This is E. Right? How many employee objects are there in memory at this point of time? Here, after this is done, how many employee objects are there in memory? 1 or 2? 2. In this session, one object was created. In this session, whenever I say session dot get 1 2 3, it will check, is there employee ID 1 2 3 in this session? It's a new session, right? No. So it will fire a query, get a new object. E1 is pointing to one employee object, E is pointing to another employee object, but ID is 1 2 3. Save. Now here you are saying session dot save or update. What it will do? It will check, is there employee object 1 2 3 in database? Yes. So it will try to fire an update query. But before firing update query, will it not make the object as persistent? Session dot update, it will make an object as persistent, right? So let's see now what will happen. Got an exception. What is it saying? An object with same identifier value was already associated with Y. Just analyze it and let me know. A different object with same identifier value was already associated with, right? So you may face such problems whenever you are using session dot save or update, right? What you can do is you can say session dot merge. So what will happen? Just analyze here. Session dot merge. What will happen? Whenever I say session dot merge E1, not E, session dot merge, already in session E1 is there, right? What is the name of E1? In database, what is the name? Let's say it is. Let's say in database it is right now Shiva. If I print the name here, it will be printing Shiva. Then I am changing it to ABC, right? Now, will this result in an update query? It is detached, right? Then what I did, I opened it. Now tell me, what is the name of E1? E1 dot get name, if I print, what will be the name? Whatever is in the database, right? Then I am saying session dot merge. What this merge will do is, if you try to merge the state of E with E1. So after merging, what will be the name of E1 dot get name? You are trying to merge old object, name is changed here. You are trying to merge this with this one. So ABC, right? And then this will result in an update query. After merging, what is the state of E? There are two things, E1 and E. What is the state of E? Is it kept in set persistence context? No. E is not kept in set persistence context. The values from here copied into E1, right? And then result in an update query. E will not become persistent. E will be still detached. E1 will be merged. The values inside E1 will be merged with the old values. Right? So you can use session dot merge. Let us see what will happen. See, update query is fired without any. Again, I'll just comment all this. These are all not required. Here I am saying session dot get. Will it result in a select query immediately or not? Session dot get, will it fire an immediate select query for 1 2 3? Yes, it fired, is it? But am I using this employee object after firing the query? I commented it. I'm not using, right? But still it is fired, right? Now what I will do is, instead of saying session.get, I'll say session.load. Okay? Let us see now. I'll just run it. Any query? No. But now I'll say system.out.println getting the name, calling a getter method on that employee object. Now, do you think the query will be fired? So what is happening? Whenever you say session.load, Hibernate will not fire a select query immediately. It will return you a proxy. It will return you a proxy object. These proxies generated by Hibernate are intelligent enough to initialize themselves on demand. On demand means whenever you try to call a method, the proxies will be automatically initialized. So if you are trying to call a method on that object, proxies will initialize themselves. If you don't call a method on that, proxies will never be. So to avoid unnecessary queries, instead of using session.get, you can use session.load to give you a proxy. So if I just load it without using it, I will not see any queries. To avoid unnecessary queries, sometimes we may use session.load instead of using session.get, right? So I will just keep a breakpoint here and then run it. See here, employee object, what is it? It is an object of type employee underscore dollar Java assist underscore 0 something, right? So I already said you earlier, what are the libraries used to generate process in Hibernate? Java jar, cglib, right? So here in this case, Hibernate is using Java assist for creating process. Here P is pointing to an object of proxy, right? But if you say session.get, you will get the original object only. So now I'll just say session.get. Let's see now whether I'll get a proxy or not. E is pointing to an object of employee only now, right? So if I say session.load, I'll get a proxy. If I say session.get, I'll get the original object. Right? Now, you understood various things till now. Now I'll tell you how to fire a select query. Here till now we fire a select query based on ID only, right? I want to get all employees. How to fire a simple HQL query, Hibernate query. Right? We will not write SQL, we will write HQL. So I just write how to fire a HQL query, simple. I'll write a new class, HQL demo. Copy paste all these lines because they are almost same. I want to fire a query which will get all the employees. So generally if you want to fire a SQL query, the query will be looking like this. String HQL is equal to something. If it is SQL instead of HQL, we will write select star from, what is the table name, emp underscore tab. This is a SQL query, right? But if you are writing HQL query is object oriented query. So you will not use table names inside your HQL. You will use class names. Yeah, object, class names, employee. Right? And in HQL you should not say select star. just saying from employee is equivalent to select star from employee. So simple SQL query, from employee equivalent to select star from employee, right? So remember, in your SQLs you will never use table names. Here you are using class names. So session dot create, we have to say session dot create query and pass the SQL. I will be getting a query object from arc.hibernate. Then query dot list will give me a list. That's all. It will give me a list of employee objects. Then I will just iterate over each employee. For each employee, I will print its name